Good morning, everybody. Good morning. My name is Darcy Carroll, and I am the worship associate for today, and welcome everybody to Pacific Unitarian Church, a beautiful building that stands on what was not so very long ago, before we were here, part of the ancestral lands of the Tongva people. We are a religiously progressive center for religious life in the South Bay and the Palos Verdes Peninsula. We're in an odd interim right now between ministers. We're 2 weeks from Steve's last service and 3 days from when our interim minister, Chloe Bride, arrives. Now is the time to act like a fool, okay? FYI, Reverend Steve wrote that. Okay, so we just had our first Friday's movie night with a movie called Seaspiracy, a lot of you saw. Powerful film about the depletion of our oceans and our seas. And today we are having a family fun day hosted by Jewel after church. On Wednesday, the writing group will meet both here and in the sanctuary at 10 a.m. online, so it's both places. The topic is to write a brief, interesting piece connected to the title, My Morning Routine. Also on Wednesday is a discussion group that we've really been getting primed to start. This involves watching a timely political or cultural video and then having a discussion, and all are welcome to join on both of these. Lunch Love. Lunch Love is, on Monday, people gather here to provide lunches, to pack up lunches for underserved seniors. These are families in Lomita and Torrance. So we collaborate with Community Child. Donations will help sustain this effort. You will see some of these little buckets around, little small buckets around it that say Lunch Love on them. The writing group, I mentioned that. Pizza lunch on Thursdays at noon on the patio. I've been many times, it's a lot of fun. And we order the pizzas. Kelly orders the pizzas at 11:30, so she needs to know by 11:30 what kind of pizza you'd like. And you could see her for the details. Everybody's welcome, it's lots of fun. Two more things. If you're interested in joining a Chalice Circle, a 10 to 12 person group that meets 10 times per year and share and discuss interesting topics, please see Judy Carter at the sign-up table on the patio during the month of August. The groups are going to begin in September. And lastly, so next Saturday, in conjunction with today's topic, the MTT will be presenting a discussion on Zoom called Race Talks, Microaggressions. After you hear Anthony's talk today, you may have a lot more questions and answers that you'd like to have. So that's at 10 o'clock next Sunday on Zoom. Saturday, duh. Okay. Yeah, they're both a weekend. You figure it out. No, I'm just kidding. All righty. Announcements. So now if I could ask Gary Hart to come up and light the chalice, because I always have a really hard time doing it. I'm fire challenged. So these are some words written by Lisa Doge. Why a flaming chalice? The question comes. It's the cup of life, we answer. A cup of blessings overflowing. A cup of water to quench our spirit's thirst. A cup of wine for celebration and dedication. The flame of truth. The fire of purification. Oil for anointing and healing. Out of chaos, fear, horror, thus was this symbol crafted a generation ago. So may it be for us in these days of uncertainty and sorrow and rage, and a light to warm our souls and guide us home. Thank you, Gary. And now we have our opening hymn, which is Come and Go With Me. the time. Lisa, you're doing the children's moment? Oh, okay. It's what? Okay. Jewel, do we have any kids here? First of all, that would be pretty, I see one kid. Two kids? So Lisa, as my husband used to say, this Christmas there'll be a little something extra in your stocking. I think the person who is going to be doing the children's moment is the person who had a real family emergency this morning. So thank you very much for doing spiritual improv. Now we will have our centering hymn, which is Morning Has Broken. You can sing through your mask or whatever you want.
Praise for the morning. recreation of the new day.
And now's the time when we do joys and sorrows, and anyone can come over this way, and Leanne will help you with the microphone. And we ask for any joy or sorrow or concern to be expressed, but not announcements. It's not a time for announcements, okay? So anyone's welcome. And now I'm very happy to read a prayer that was written by Audette Folsom before we have a little short meditation. This prayer was written as a memorial for Eric Garner. Do not think we are finished. Oh no, we will never be finished, never just done until the light of justice is lit behind every eye. Do not think we will be silent. No, there will not be silence until the world has sung the names of the dead with full throats, and still we will sing on. Do not think that fear is the end of us. Oh no, you are broken in mind and heart if you even imagine that our fear for our lives is the end of this story. We are braver than you have ever conceived, and you will not be the end of us. We have come to take back the world that is the inheritance of better children, better lovers, better days. There will be love again, but justice is our demand now. You will not take us down. We are endless, fire-lit, determined, and we are coming for you. In memoriam for Eric Garner. We'll have just a quiet moment. Thank you, Robin. Today we are lucky to have Anthony Emeka back. He was one of our speakers in a Saturday series that we held on race about 2 years ago. 2 years ago? Wow. Anthony is a strategy consultant who has spent his career addressing and solving complex human-centered problems with a particular focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. His work is rooted in both a professional and a personal passion to bring about a just and equitable world for the most marginalized citizens in our society. Part of that commitment is lived out as the host of a podcast titled Reset, Rethink, a podcast that invites people from diverse walks of life to discuss all the things on the forefront of the millennial mind. And since millennial is something we never have been accused of being here, we all have something to learn. So welcome, Anthony, millennial us.
This is always so exciting. Darcy, thank you for that. You're great. You're wonderful. I'm super excited to be back. Let me just start my timer here and make sure I don't go over. Good morning, everyone. How are you? You know, it's a really great day outside. I am super excited to be here. I'm really excited to share this topic with you. I'm not sure how much you all know about this topic, but I'm hoping to impart some new knowledge with you, and we're just going to take it there. Are we showing up here? Oh, there we go. Oh, no. I always call Kelly. I don't know if it's going on. Yep. Oh, it's waiting for a connection. Technical difficulties. Give us 25 seconds. We'll figure it out. You know, it's all working well until it isn't. But in short, so what we're going to talk about, and I'll wait for this to load up. Put this up. So we're going to be talking about microaggressions. Just by a show of hands, how many of you are familiar with what a microaggression is? Oh, this is great. Okay, everyone's kind of in on, okay, it's not a secret anymore. We're in on it. So today we're going to talk about kind of 3 different areas. I want to talk about how we can define what a microaggression is. I want to then also identify specific examples so you know sometimes we think something is a microaggression, other times it isn't. And then I also want to talk about how we can adjust them as individuals and if we also do it ourselves. Excuse me. Oh, that's okay. That sounds great. Awesome. Thank you. See, again, technology works until it doesn't. All great. So, and Kelly's going to cue us up, but that's fine. So we're on slide number 2. We're just talking about the roadmap for today. So again, we're going to start with defining what a microaggression is. Oh, yay! We're winning. Okay. But now I can't see it. Okay. To go to the next slide, please, Kelly, because you're amazing. Awesome. So we're going to talk about, this is our roadmap for today. We're going to talk about what a microaggression is, a very clear definition. There are a lot of definitions floating around out there, but we're going to use one for today specifically. We're then also going to talk about how do we understand what microaggressions are, where they show up, how they show up, what's the science behind that. And then we'll do a little bit of microaggressions in action, give you some examples again as I shared, and then we're going to do a call to action. How do we respond to microaggressions, either when we ourselves present one into the world or we're in the company where one is presented? So we can go on to the next slide, please. So let's define, oh, wait, is it that me? Okay. No to you, okay. No problems. Oh, no worries. Yes, yes, awesome. Thank you. Okay, so forgive me in advance. I'm going to be turning my head to make sure that we're on the right side. So if we can go to the next one. So let's define what a microaggression is. As I stated, there are lots of definitions out there, but this is the one that we're going to use today. So you can press that again one more time, Kelly. Actually, I'm going to do this. So a microaggression, as it was stated earlier, it's the everyday, subtle, intentional, and oftentimes unintentional interactions or behaviors that communicate some sort of bias towards historically marginalized groups. So when we're talking about microaggressions, it's not just race. It's not just sex. It could be ableism, ageism, sexuality, religion, all the isms that exist in the world. And what's something to know is that this happens every day. It happens in regular conversation. It happens when we're exchanging ideas, when we're talking to other people over dinner, whatever the case may be. So I also want us to be very cognizant of the fact that this is not a place for us to blame each other or shame each other, because this is something that we all do. So as we go on to the next slide, we say when we're discussing microaggressions, I want to remember that we're all a work in progress. We don't want to shame anyone. We don't want to blame anyone. I also want to note that because they are microaggressions, the term micro is there. They start off small, but they can be compounded over time. Think of getting one paper cut, and then think of getting like 25 paper cuts, and then 30, and then 3,000. And this is what happens over the course of a lifetime of someone who is part of an underrepresented or marginalized group. And so as a result of that, those microaggressions over time can become just as impactful as like overt forms of discrimination. Because, again, that one paper cut by itself isn't bad, but if you have 1,000 paper cuts, and then 200,000, and then 1,000,000 paper cuts, then it starts to get a little bad. And that's what microaggressions do to us over time. And so we can go on to the next slide. I'm going to talk to you a little bit, what's the science behind microaggressions? Like, how do we get here? So the first point there, and you might have to do a few of these. I had some little graphics here with this one, Kelly. The first point that I really want to make is that our mind, the human brain, can process 11 million bits of information every second. Think about that. 11 million bits of information every second. But guess what? You want to go on to press that one more time? Our conscious mind can only handle 40 to 50 bits of information a second. So we can process 11 million, but our conscious mind can only handle 40 to 50. Think about that. So as a result, we can press that one more time. Our brains, we take cognitive shortcuts because we can't process all the information that's occurring all the time. So as a result of taking these shortcuts, they can lead to unconscious or implicit bias. They can have serious consequences of how we perceive and act towards other people. So, we're processing this information. If you're running out of the house, you're like, oh, I know the car's there. You don't go and check to see if the car's there. So you make a shortcut and you just walk out the door. That's fine when you're dealing with things. But when you're dealing with people, that becomes a different situation. So we can go on to the next slide where I ask, well, where do these microaggressions show up? And we've talked about this already. They show up everywhere. Whether you're hanging out with your friends, whether you're in the office, you're having dinner, family, children, peers, partners, while you're playing sports, on social media. Microaggressions are happening everywhere all day long. So let's get into the next slide. Let's talk about some of those examples. One of my favorite ones. A common microaggression that people of color hear whenever race or ethnicity or nationality comes up is, when I see you, I don't really see color. Woo, that can be loaded. And I hear from a little bit of the nervous chuckle there, you're like, yeah, I've heard that, I may have said this, and that's okay. But let's talk about why this is problematic. So you can press that one more time. And this comment and other similar comments, it often shuts down a conversation. And when you're engaging with someone, I don't think that's our goal. We don't want to shut down the other person. But it also implicitly implies that seeing or acknowledging race is a bad thing. Guess what we don't do? We don't say, I don't see gender. Right? But we say we don't see color. Think about why we do that. You know, it also dismisses the experiences of people of color. It assumes that my experience is the same experience as a black man, it's the same experience that you may be receiving as a non-black person. We know that's not the case. The world sees me different, I interact with the world differently. So we can go on to the next one. And you know, a great microaggression against women. This is really common in often spaces. Oh, she's so bossy. She's so assertive. She's pushy. She's aggressive. How many of you have heard that? Or been in a, as every woman's hand rolls up, yes. Okay? And as you can imagine, it's problematic for a host of reasons. And so what I share as we select the next content that's there, men and males exhibit this exact same behavior, yet they're never characterized in this manner. Exactly. And actually, they're lauded positively as being like strong and determined and ambitious and driven. This comment implies that we have a problem when women are strong, ambitious, or driven. Maybe she knows what she wants, just like your male counterpart or the other male in your life. And we can go to the next slide. This is also one that gets under my skin a little bit. You're so articulate. Oh, yeah. You speak English really well. Oh, man, amazing. Yeah, keep it going. As you can imagine, this is also incredibly problematic for a host of reasons. And the reason that I share with you there, this implies that the person that you're speaking to, or others like them, would be less articulate than the person that's in front of you. And that's because of the stereotypes, the ideas, the premeditations we have in our mind about who people are, how they think, how they speak, how they engage. It's just not fair. And the latter part of that, you speak English really well. Well, you can imply that someone's not a native English speaker, or that they had to learn English as a second language, or that they're not from the United States. And oftentimes, that's not what we're seeking to do, but it comes out, again, back to our definition, unintentionally so. So these are just some of the things that we constantly say in everyday conversation that just comes up. In our next slide, I want to talk about just a few examples of the things that we do. And have you ever unconsciously or consciously locked your car door as a non-white person walked by? I know I walk down the street or in a parking structure, be leaving Target with my tennis rackets, getting some food, and I hear the door lock. I hear it lock, and it's very light. It's like very, it's a hard sound, like, you hear it. And I'm always surprised by it. And the rationale that we provide there is when we do something like that, there's an assumption that this person's going to be a threat to you, that they're going to be a menace to you. It perpetuates the stereotype as this person of color as being violent, as being a thief, as being harmful. Because the reality is, if you've been driving for 20 miles and you haven't locked your doors, you probably didn't care that much. But all of a sudden, you see someone and you lock your doors. Think about what that does. We can go on to the next slide. We talked about this briefly during our exam. I think it's Lisa, correct? You brought this up. Have you ever unconsciously touched a black woman's hair uninvited? Yeah, it's big, it's beautiful, luscious, complex, all those things. But my question is, would you do that if that woman wasn't black? And the answer is probably no. So not only are we crossing someone's personal boundary, I've had people come up and just try to rub my head. I'm like, that's really rude, number one. Number two, we would never do that if I wasn't a black man. Also, touching a black woman's hair is like putting them on display. It's othering them. Your hair is different. It doesn't look like mine. Well, you know what? You can be different and be okay. You don't have to be different and less than, which is what also the undertone of that. Oh, it's different, therefore it's less than. That we can be different and not be less than. And have you, ever unconsciously or consciously asked an underrepresented person, make sure that's there. Oh, there we go. Have you ever asked an underrepresented person to speak on behalf of all people who look like them? I speak for all black people. I speak for all gay men. Lisa speaks for all women. Not a good look. No one is ever able to provide a perspective or opinion about anything for an entire group of people, ever. When we do these things, it also assumes that there aren't any divergent ideas or opinions or perspectives about said topic, about said comment, whatever the case may be. So, I share these items, and these are just a few, right? We can go into a whole bunch more about everything that exists out into society. Again, it's not just race. It can be sex, it can be religion, sexuality, age, ableism, whatever the case may be. We can go through all those things. Let's talk about what are some things that you can take away from today, knowing that we engage with this behavior both verbally and action-wise. So, if you've recognized that you yourself have made a microaggression, or if someone tells you that they've offended you, that you've offended them, show yourself some grace and be prepared to be uncomfortable. We may say the wrong thing, and that's okay. None of us are perfect. Don't be so hard on yourself, but be ready to engage. The second point, I want you to apologize. Oftentimes, we get caught up in, I feel bad, I don't know what I'm gonna say, I don't know what I did, I'm gonna say the wrong thing. And you forget that actually, this wasn't about you. This was about the person you offended. This is about the person you insulted. This was about the person fill in the blank with some colorful adjective. So apologize, address the situation, and don't defend yourself. For the love of God. When you defend yourself, it just makes everything worse. When you're giving an apology, the last thing you want is someone to say, oh, well, I didn't, but I'm just sorry, full stop. Accept that you call someone to, accept that you've hurt someone's feelings or you bothered them, regardless of what your intent was. Intent is great, but if you hurt my feelings, if you insulted me, if you humiliated me, none of that really matters. Thirdly, if you recognize that you made a microaggression, ask the person this key question: how can I say that differently? Give that person the opportunity to respond to how you can respect them as an individual. And remember, this applies to them, that one individual. There is no one-size-fits-all response. And one great example is that I prefer to be called black. There are lots of people who prefer African American. There are other people who want to be called American. I want to be a black American, full stop. There is no one-size-fits-all for any of these solutions, for any of these challenges. So you need to be able to actively engage with that individual to find out what makes them feel like they belong, what makes them feel respected. Oftentimes we say, treat someone as though you want to be treated. I learned a while ago, it's actually treat people how they want to be treated, how they want to be respected. Because what is respect for me may be different for this person over here. And, we're in a lot of social spaces. Maybe you're not the one who has, delivered a microaggression, but maybe you observed one, and you're in that space, and you say, hey, someone said something, and I really, really, really want to call them into that situation because that wasn't okay. They may not recognize it, but you do. So when I say that, we can go to the next slide. Thanks, Kel. Okay. Say that you want to call that person in. We don't want to call them out. When you call someone out, it puts them on the spot. They get defensive. They shut down. It's no longer productive. Call them into the conversation. You want to, number one, assume positive intent. If you're engaging and having a conversation with this person, you're already talking about these things, I would hope that they're not setting themselves out to hurt other people, to be nasty, to be mean, to humiliate. So maybe they didn't mean to hurt anyone, and remember, we all make mistakes. We all make mistakes all the time. Secondly, you want to find the right moment to address that comment. Maybe it's not in the moment because of the situation. It may be too heated. It may be something that just, hey, you want to talk to that person one-on-one. Maybe it's later on. Maybe it's the next day. Maybe it's a day later, whatever the case may be. Or maybe it's in the future sometime after you've processed it and you get the language and you get the knowledge and information that you need. But I want to make sure that you address that comment because it will need to be addressed. One thing that we oftentimes forget is that people who are on the receiving end of microaggressions were oftentimes addressing these comments. I'm tired. I don't want to be responsible for educating every person who makes an insensitive comment about something, specifically related to, me being black or me being gay or even others that I defend and am an ally to. Someone makes a comment about a woman, I'm going to say something. But sometimes I am tired. So if you are in that privileged space, we want you to be able to engage with that person and find the right moment to have that conversation. And, one of the best ways to do that, as with our last question, is one simple way to kind of just get clarity. Ask that person, what did you mean by that? Very simple question. It gives an individual an opportunity to clarify their statement. And one of two things are going to happen. They're going to say, that's what I meant. And then we go, okay. We'd have to have another conversation. Or they're going to say, hey, I didn't mean that. Let me explain what I did mean. And it gives them an opportunity. Again, we're inviting them in to explain themselves. Because maybe they're going to find out, actually, that's not what I meant. I didn't mean to insult you. I didn't mean to humiliate you. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. Invite them in. Don't call them out. Oh, I didn't know that was going to be so loud with my timer. Wonderful. Right on time. And so I leave you with those call to actions. So the next time you are in a space and you inadvertently deliver a microaggression, or you're in a space and you hear a microaggression, that at least we have the tools to be able to address them properly and hopefully by diffusing the situation. And remember, inclusion is a journey. It's not a destination. We're going to continue to make mistakes. Be patient with yourself. And, be comfortable being uncomfortable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I really love that you emphasize the timing of when you witness something or experience something like that. Because sometimes you're like a deer in the headlights, right? When you hear something, it kind of shocks your system. And there's an expression, sometimes it's a matter of strike when the iron is cold, Anyway, and calling somebody in instead of calling them out. What a lot of wonderful stuff. Thank you so much. Where am I? Okay, now it's time for the shakedown. Be as generous as you feel you should be, given that you are not sitting in a church that A, tells you that God loves you so much that if you don't love him back, you might burn in hell, and B, that sex is an awful, filthy thing and that you should never save it. You should be sure to save it for somebody you intend to love forever. So please give generously.
Spread your wings and you'll take to the sky. But until that morning, there's nothing can harm you. With Daddy and Mommy standing by.
Thank you, Shayna, the soprano's soprano. And now our closing hymn will be Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears has been washed. and at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, though thou hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee, shadowed beneath thy hand. May we forever stand true to our God, true to our native land.
I would like to do the closing words, to ask our wonderful Judy Schaefer to come up and help me read it. If This church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences, beneath all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together. In spite of time and death and the space between the stars, we pause in silent witness to that unity.
May the blessing of love be upon you. May love's peace abide with you. May love's presence illuminate your hearts now and forevermore. So be it. Amen. Shalom. Salam. Namaste. Blessed be. And now our service truly begins. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin Patterson, for an old Gershwin service.